Since he does not give enough, she will take everything back with fierce pleasure. So the woman never feels like he is giving enough. Then the wounded man, because the man always feels that he is giving enough, discovers the total price of the relationship. He will again consider himself exploited. So the man always feels like he is being exploited if we try to get things from him. He accuses his mistress of blackmailing him, and both consider themselves frustrated. This is the huge problem between us, that we don't know, we just don't have the same values of each other. It's useless to allocate excuses and criticism. Justice can never be created within injustice. That's a really great summary sentence. But a man cannot prevent himself from being a man. So here he is, guilty in spite of himself, oppressed by this fault that he has not committed himself. This is also a really important thing to say, because she is a victim, but each of the men that we meet and we establish relationships with, they are not guilty of all of this. So it's confusing for them. They have also come into the world, a world ruled by all of these premises, long term. This is all so deep, so historical. It's really hard for them to, A, it's hard for them to understand. B, it's hard for them to consider themselves guilty, because they're not guilty. It's the whole situation. All they can do is just try to understand it and accommodate little things. But as I said, this is going to take a while. This is a long-standing problem. I don't know if to call it a problem, but it's just circumstantial. I don't know. So both genders, in brief, are confused. Sometimes he chooses cruelty, but then he makes himself an accomplice of injustice. So sometimes when the man chooses to be cruel, then it really is his fault. The fault really becomes his. Sometimes he allows himself to be destroyed, devoured by his victim, because he feels so guilty. But then he feels tricked. Often he settles for a compromise that both diminishes him and puts him ill at ease, makes him uncomfortable. A man of goodwill will be more torn by the situation than the woman herself, because a man who is a nice man, he gets this, and he doesn't like to be in this position. But he cannot deny himself either, so it's problematic. What do you choose? How do you act? There's no example of how equality would look like. It's really hard for both men and women to create this out of nowhere. If the woman is also a good woman, unable to be self-sufficient, unwilling to crush the man with the weight of her destiny, she struggles with herself. And she's also confused, because so if the woman wants to be nice to the man, but she cannot support herself, and we can't really fully support ourselves. I mean, of course, we can have a job and have enough money to survive by ourselves and everything, but we cannot do everything by ourselves by the mere biological facts that we are, and by, of course, the situation, the circumstances, the history, everything. The world is not built for us, so it's not the same. There are no satisfactory solutions because they are defined by unsatisfactory conditions. A man who sees himself as obligated to maintain a woman he no longer loves materially and morally feels that he is a victim. But if he abandons the woman without resources, and she has committed her whole life to him, she would be a victim in an equally unjust manner. This is a conflict that's happening all the time with divorce, and I am very conflicted by it because I don't know what to say. I mean, on one hand, of course I can see how it's unfair for the man to have to pay for the woman afterwards, but I also think it's unfair, possibly more unfair, because the woman has given her time, and time has more value than money. So in that sense, time has more value than money, plus a woman's time has more value than anybody's time, because the woman only really has 10 years to be the woman, you know. So it's really unfair for both parties. What can I say? This wrong does not come from individual perversity. It doesn't. It comes from a situation in the face of which all individual behavior is powerless. Women are clingy, they are a burden, and they suffer from it. They are not an autonomous organism. If they were, then their dependence would be abolished, and the man's also. Both would undoubtedly be much better off for it. So woman's liberation would be man's liberation. It would be just better for both of us. I want to take a little break here, just to take that in, because we are coming into the last part of the possibilities of how a world where men and women were really equal, how would that be? So let's just take a little break, have a drink. I'm going to refill my Coca-Cola. I'm having Coca-Cola, not alcohol, although I do fully intend to have alcohol after this. I'll be right back.